Welcome back, Canada. Great Northern Discussions. I'm your host, Kevin Tucker. Just wrapped up another beauty with John Carpay. He's the CEO of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms here in Canada. He represents a lot of huge cases. We focused primarily on a couple. We did touch on the recent decision on the Invocation of the Emergencies Act. And then we got into some of the bigger ones that they're involved in, specifically MAID in Canada and what some of the lobby groups are trying to push on Canadians. And we talked about online censorship and it's creeping into our online community on us as users and as influencers and creators, and how's that going to affect us. Anyway, it was a great conversation. I learned a lot, and you will too. As always, many thanks to our sponsor, Lone Star Directional Drilling. We'll start with a real easy one. How you enjoying that weather?
When it's mild in Calgary in January, as it was for about 2 weeks, we get punished for it in March.
Oh yeah,
I've noticed that over the years. You get a mild January.
Yeah.
March is going to be brutal. 20 below, 30 below in March. Lots of snow and ice. Really miserable.
It's true. Yeah, I keep telling everybody we're going to get smoked. We always do. We get that late one, and even in May, we'll get that freaky one, May long weekend-ish kind of there. So are you born and raised Calgary then? Or
I've been here just over 30 years. I moved here in 1995. I was 28 years old. I moved here to go to law school, and then after law school, I've never left. Except I spent 4 years in Edmonton working for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation.
Yeah.
But those were good years, and I enjoyed my time in Edmonton. But other than those 4 years, I've been in Calgary now for over 30 years.
30 years, yeah. And I'm similar because I'm 26 years now. Yeah, I moved in 2000 full time. I just love it. Calgary's an unreal city. Kind of need people to stop coming though. We're exploding. We can't keep up. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to our chat today, and I hope to get educated myself on some topics. But maybe let's get into a little bit of your brief history and then how you got involved. And I want to say it right, for the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms.
Yes. Okay, you're part of a minority that gets it right. I always say Justice Center. I don't I don't bother with the for constitutional freedoms, but yeah, the Justice Center. So we are a registered charity. We're a nonprofit, 15 years old, founded in 2010, and we've got a team of lawyers, 10 lawyers, looking to expand. Actually, we had a good year last year, and so we've got more funding available for more lawyers. So we've got lawyers working on cases from British Columbia to Newfoundland.
Yeah.
The court cases are in defense of our freedoms of expression, association, peaceful assembly, conscience, religion, travel, mobility, bodily autonomy, the right to refuse a medical treatment, including a vaccine, that should be respected by governments. People should not be pressured or coerced into getting injected or taking any medical treatment. And we've had in 15 years we've had lots of successes. We've lost. When you fight battles, you don't always win. So
don't always win them. Yeah,
we've had court rulings against us on some of the lockdowns and vaccine mandates. The judges would just kind of write the media narrative into the court ruling, and not actually pay close attention to the evidence that was placed before court. So we've lost some battles too, but we got a win just earlier this month with the Federal Court of Appeal ruling that Trudeau acted illegally with the Invocation of Emergencies Act, and that's one of the Justice Center's court cases where we provided lawyers to 4 Canadians to sue to seek that declaration that the federal government was out of line.
Yeah, well, I'm happy you brought it up because I think we should touch on it. It's a big one that the media, of course, doesn't seem to really cover that hard. Not surprisingly, they covered it, but it's a massive, it's a problem. Do you think that I mean, you see all the conversations online. Now people are saying, okay, now what happens to Justin? Of course, we know nothing is going to happen, but it was deemed unconstitutional. It's illegal.
Well, I got an email the other day from Diane Magus, who is the lawyer for Chris Barber. Chris Barber, the latest was that the Crown failed to seize his truck.
His truck. I had him in
Big
here.
Red.
We talked about it. He was, he was going through it when he came in here. He was trying to hang on to his truck, and he has since won. Amazing.
I was so relieved. I was terrified. I was not at all confident that he would win. So and that's the case. The Justice Center's funding, right? So we pay Diane Magus's, we pay for her legal bills. Yeah. And anyway, she's using the federal court ruling on the Emergencies Act. She's using that now in her courtroom advocacy as the matters are still moving ahead because there's appeals underway. Yeah. And it cannot but help. There's apparently quite a few civil actions underway where I think like Tamara Leach, I believe, is suing, but lots of Canadians, there's probably lots of different actions where they're suing the federal government over the damages of the, financial loss, mental anguish, emotional distress, psychological suffering from having your bank account frozen. So this Federal Court of Appeal ruling is going to be helpful, I think, to those civil cases, because here you've got a high court. It's one notch below the Supreme Court of Canada. You've got a very high court that has said that it was illegal. There was no national emergency. One local peaceful protest in one city does not constitute a national emergency, right? Because the Coots and Windsor situations had been
totally different, and they were done. Yeah,
they were done. They were diffused, resolved, and then the federal government decides to get all. I wonder if they just enjoyed the power trip, just the drama of declaring an emergency, and then the drama of inflicting violence on peaceful protesters and freezing bank accounts. I mean, some people thrive on that kind of stuff, which is pretty sick.
It is sick. It certainly looked that way, right? I mean, I've mentioned in here before. I was watching on CPAC the Senate, and he was getting obliterated. I want to say almost every senator. I didn't watch every single senator, but they were not having it. And senators who I would be, opposed. We would be opposed on many topics and issues, specifically a lot environmentally. But they were not having it. It was getting squashed, and then all of a sudden,
which is why he lifted it, because he was not going to get the support from the Senate vote. And what's also disgusting is how the banks, all of whom have legal departments, and I'm sure they're not small. I'm sure the Royal Bank of Canada has got pretty large legal department, and they just the government said jump, and they said how high. Yeah. Contrast that with I know a local credit union in Alberta where the head had said, if he'd had these orders, he would have questioned and pushed back, but I think the banks just blindly obeyed, gave Canadians no opportunities to defend themselves. Right. This is normally just a basic principle of fairness. Right. If I'm going to do something that has a negative impact on you, I go to you, I give you a hearing of sorts. I don't mean formal like a court hearing, but I give you some opportunity to look. I'm gonna debank you. I don't want you as my customer, but I'm gonna have a conversation, give you a chance to, and maybe if you don't want to be debanked and you want to stay with me, give you a chance to explain your case and say why I want to debank you. Have a conversation. No, none of that. Yeah, they just froze people's bank accounts, and they didn't have to do that. They would say, well, we were just following orders. There's bad historical precedent for we were just following orders, right? We don't recognize that as a valid excuse.
Yeah, it is very, very insane to me that actually even happened, because there were so many people who were just giving $100 and $20 and at home and depressed and
not to a recognized criminal. We have anti-terrorist financing legislation on the books, which is good, and it should be enforced. But there was nothing terrorist or even criminal. I mean, there were parking infractions, and the police told the truckers where to park their cars, and But this is not, terrorist or violent or criminal that people were giving their money to.
No.
It was just the prime minister didn't like their donations.
Looked bad.
And just went after them, which is the type of thing you'd expect in a repressive regime like an authoritarian third world, theocratic Iran or some banana republic in South America where if you criticize the president, the next day you're in jail, with allegedly charged with theft or murder or fraud or something, because and everybody knows it's because you criticized the president and now you're in jail under trumped up charges. This is what we have descended to in Canada, and we're not out of the water yet.
No, we're not out of the water. That one, it is pretty nuts that all went down that way. But it's the part that's alarming to me is just that it's in front of everyone's eyes. Like everybody saw it, but they're I don't want to say they. Let's just talk about the people who support Justin at the time. They were only watching CBC, so I mean, we all saw the narrative. I remember watching it in real time on and I'm not like a big TikTok guy. I put my content on there from podcasts and things, but there was like 700 million views on these clips on what was actually going on there. And it was just I said it even to family. I mean, this was a love fest to me. It was people that were fed up and then they were all with like-minded people, really disheartening to watch us descend into that. But so just getting back to, the people that you represent. And so how did you find yourself at the center of the center?
Well, throughout my life, I guess since I was a teenager, I've been very focused on freedom as a concept and a believer that the government that governs best is a government that governs the least, and a bigger government means less freedom, and we're better off with more freedom. We have more prosperity, we have less poverty, we have human flourishing, we have a society where people are not trying to control each other's vocal cords and everybody can speak, and I just really believe in the free society. I hate tyranny. I hate whether it's communist, national socialist, theocratic, whatever the exterior ideology is. It could be woke. It could be whatever, right? But the exterior coding doesn't matter. What matters is the human dignity and that government should respect our fundamental human rights and constitutional freedoms. So that's been a driving conviction for me since I was a teenager. So after I got my law degree and I got called to the bar and I was practicing law, and I was at a small firm, Rooney Prentice. That was the late Jim Prentice, who was briefly premier. But the civil litigation, I was never in court, and it was all paper and no people. I wasn't enjoying it too much. So then I heard that the Canadian Taxpayers Federation was looking for a new Alberta director. So for the most part, I left the practice of law for 4.5 years, worked for the Taxpayers Federation. And then I had an opportunity to get into this nonprofit legal advocacy work with a different organization that I ran for 5 years, and moved on from there and then started the Justice Center. So it's like I'm fighting for freedom in the courts of law and in the court of public opinion, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's an important avenue because since the charter was added to our Constitution 44 years ago, we're now in a situation where judges exercise a lot of power. So people who love freedom need to be concerned about and engaged with the courts, and as well as obviously the federal parliament and provincial legislatures.
Yeah. Well, it's excellent. I mean, it's very admirable. It's excellent work that you're doing, and I think it's super important. It's important work right now, and you're gaining a lot of notoriety and traction, and you're taking on a lot of controversial cases that the Spinmeisters would have us believe. Right.
It's not always about popularity.
Of course not. No.
We fought for the right of parents to be fully informed about what their kids were being exposed to through the gay-straight alliances. And so we had a court action in 2018 because the NDP imposed this secrecy law where the parents could not know. It was like deliberately, we're going to keep parents in the dark about what goes on at a Gay Straight Alliance. Who's the guest speaker?
Yeah.
What is he or she talking about? What are the kids getting exposed to? Are they getting, is there pornography? Is there transgender ideology? What's going on?
Well,
and it was like, keep parents in the dark. So we challenged that in court, and a lot of people supported us, but there was also this like, oh, you know, you're homophobic and you're transphobic and you don't care if gay teenagers commit suicide and shame on you and you're on the wrong side of history. Lots and lots of vitriol. We didn't care. We took a position on principle, and we were successful indirectly, because then when Jason Kenney and the UCP got elected, they repealed that legislation and rendered our court action moot.
Yeah.
But I think if we hadn't started the court action, I'm not at all convinced that the new government would have repealed the legislation.
Yeah, yeah, right. Well, it's smart moves. Well done on that front. Well, I think there's a couple of things that you've been into lately, and I think this would be good for me because I'm not well versed, and I want to talk about MAID. You just came out with a pretty huge report, I would say. I think it was January 20th. You released the report. So maybe we can get into just a kind of like a bit of the history on MAID's purpose, and then where it's kind of morphed or what is being pushed or lobbied for on the other side.
So in 1993, the Supreme Court of Canada came out with a ruling in a case called Rodriguez. She was a woman in British Columbia who had ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, and she was challenging the criminal code prohibition on assisted suicide. So this has been on the books for generations, and quite sensibly so, right? Because you could just imagine. Somebody could shoot somebody and then the police come and it's like, well, he wanted to commit suicide and I was just helping him out. So
right, yes.
that was one reason. The other reason, probably bigger, was just the idea that it was commonly understood for centuries, and I think it's still understood today. Suicide is a bad thing. It's not a good thing. No. So we had this prohibition on helping somebody to commit suicide in order to, I guess, keep the suicide rates down. I mean, it's unfortunately going to happen anyway in some cases, but if it's like, oh yeah, we'll help you out to do it, well, you're going to see more of it, which is exactly what's happened. But in 1993, the Supreme Court in Rodriguez, they said that the criminal code prohibition on assisted suicide was valid. And, but then 22 years later, they did a 180-degree turn. They reversed themselves, and they came out with another decision called Carter, and that was in 2015. Yep. And in Carter, they said that the Charter Section 7 right to life, liberty, security of the person includes a right to kill yourself, and that there should not be a prohibition on getting assistance. Now, the court's reasoning was that this would be this very narrow exception, and somebody who is terminally ill, they're definitely going to die in the next few days, weeks, months. They're in extreme pain and suffering, and they want to commit suicide. And so there shouldn't be a criminal prohibition on, say, a doctor helping them to commit suicide.
Right.
But this should be, we're just going to open the door an inch for like the hard cases.
Yeah.
That was the thinking, and that was the thinking of Parliament a year later in 2016. So it started out in 2017, which was the first full 12-month year of having assisted suicide being legal in Canada. It was like 2,800 or just under 3,000 Canadians killed themselves with the help of a doctor. Yeah, medical assistance in dying. Yeah. So 2024, okay, the last year for which we have data, 16,499, right? So it went from 3,000 to 16,500. Yeah. And now, next year, March of 2027, the law is scheduled to change so that mentally ill people, including depressed people, can kill themselves and obtain a doctor's assistance. Yeah. Which really throws the whole medical profession and the psychiatric profession into some kind of disarray, because normally for the past centuries, if you're a psychiatrist or medical doctor who's not a psychiatrist, but somebody's depressed, well, you and somebody wants to commit suicide, that is a mental illness. So you help the patient to get to a place where they no longer want to commit suicide. Well, now it's changed where it's like, oh, okay, so well, you want to commit suicide? Okay, we can get things set up for you, and we can get a doctor to help you do that.
Right.
That's March of 20. That's coming in 14 months, March of 2027, unless Parliament changes the law again. But this is the way it's scheduled right now. March of 2027. People who have no physical ailments, no physical suffering, but they have a mental illness, including depression, they can kill themselves and get a doctor's help to do so.
Yeah, that one really stuck out at me, and I think this is why you're seeing a lot more people speaking out about it. Like Kelsey Sheeran, of course, is one of the advocates for that, because you just can't. I don't know how you justify it on that side. I always try to look at it like from another person's point of view, or play the devil's advocate, but I don't know how you can rectify if someone is struggling mentally. They're obviously not in their right state of mind. So how can they just fast track it? So what do you think is the purpose, or what is driving this increase in lobbying for more assisted death? Sorry.
Well, there's a group called Dying with Dignity Canada.
Yeah, and it's all over your report in there. If people want to check it out, please go to the website. Yeah. Yeah,
they're quite they're
aggressive.
Yeah, they're enthusiastic about suicide. I mean, they're not saying everybody should do it, but they seem to view it as a pretty good thing, and it should be, as widely available as possible. And I think that is a threat to vulnerable people, because human nature is flawed. We had a case, the Western Standard reported on this within the past week or so, where a woman committed suicide with the help of a doctor. There was assisted suicide with a woman, but she there wasn't a caretaker for her. Her husband, they were both elderly, and her husband was finding it hard to look after her,
right?
And the resources weren't there. I don't know if they didn't have family members, or I don't know if
didn't know the whole story.
I don't know the details, but it was really hard to care for her, and she ends up. She'd been previously denied as ineligible, but then she reapplied, and she applied and got assisted suicide the same day.
Like the day of.
And it was the day of, and like it was driven by their circumstances where they're both elderly and they couldn't look after each other properly. This is what you get if you open the doors wide, which we have. I think. It's whether we should shut the door entirely. Okay, that's debatable, but I think most Canadians would agree we need to close the door back to at least it's a narrow crack that you're terminally ill, you're suffering, you're going to die very soon, and you want to speed things up. Okay, so the door's open by a crack.
We're not. Yeah, you're not suggesting that assisted deaths is wrong. It's just the fact that they've opened this up just a little bit and kind of stretched it. Well, okay, here, and then it's a slippery slope, like you say. And I want to touch on this one real quick. You've got it. If people want to go to your report, you can go to jccf.ca, and there's a report in there. Here, we'll get the title on it. Canada's Assisted Suicide Crisis: The Sinister Culture of Death in Canadian Healthcare. We'll touch on a couple of things here in a little bit, but you mentioned a specific case where it mentions here as an example, not unlike the story that you had just told me, but as an example, one man with a history of suicidal ideation and untreated addictions was asked by his psychiatrist during a session whether he was aware of MAID. After being approved, he was personally transported by the MAID provider in their vehicle to an external location for the provision of MAID. This is
same day.
Same day, like and they're all over. Anytime
that was
you mention
Keanu I forget how to pronounce his last name. Yeah, he was 26, and his mother is just crushed and devastated and heartbroken.
I hear you.
He came close to the brink in 2022, but she was managed to intervene and talk him out of it. This and that. And now in December 2025, so just last month, she was not able to get to him and reach him. He was depressed
Sad.
and had diabetes and was blind in one eye and had, in many respects, a very difficult life, a very sad life.
Yeah.
But, his mom and I think other people wanted to help him, and he was kind of isolated, and MAID got to him.
Scary. That's very scary. And it just makes me think of, too, anytime you mention private healthcare, everybody loses their mind.
A lot of people do. That's slowly shifting because we're finally, healthcare in Canada is so bad on a value for money spent. I mean, we've got one of the highest spending levels in the world on healthcare. And then outcomes, if you're looking at wait times, number of doctors per 1,000 Canadians, number of nurses, MRI machines, ultrasounds, wait times for orthopedic surgeries, on every measurable outcome, we come in 7th place, 11th place, 21st place, 17th place, but the spending is way up high. So I think the ground is shifting on that front, and people are starting to, I think Canadians are starting to acquire a little bit of humility and actually look at healthcare systems in Japan, France, the United Kingdom, and say, okay, wait a minute, we can have public healthcare that has private participation in it, and it's publicly funded for everybody. But the wait times are a fraction of what they are here. Yeah, there's virtually no wait times in Japan for anything.
Yeah, how can that be? How can that be? It's
because it's not a government monopoly where bureaucrats like Alberta Health Services are trying to allocate resources. It's because they have private companies. They're ultimately funded by taxpayers because it's a public system. Yeah, but. Yeah,
I don't. I find that one.
But you're right. A lot of people light their hair on fire. You talk about private healthcare, and then
they go crazy.
It's
no private, and they get all protective of the nurses and the doctors. We get that, but I mean, there's also a certain sect. There's a lot of people that would access the private immediately, and we're not trying to get rid of public. That's where they go. You're getting rid of public.
No, but if somebody pays out of pocket, pays $700 for an MRI,
who cares?
That's one less person that's on the waiting list in the public system. So,
and
the guy or the gal that's paying $700 for a private MRI is still paying taxes. And if they're higher income, they're paying a lot of tax.
I've done it myself several times. I've where you just can't wait. I've had all kinds of crazy injuries, but I've paid myself for. Why not? I can wait 6 to 8 months
and get permanent damage on something that needs to get fixed right away.
I couldn't walk. I had to work. I had to do things. Why not? And so to take.
But private MAID, that's what triggered this whole thing. Yeah. So they've got a place in Victoria where the.
That's where I'm going right here. Beauty. Yeah. It's right in the report there. Yeah. The one. Yeah. Discuss what you found here.
Yeah, so at an undisclosed location in Victoria and BC, we've got this MAID house, and so you can pay out of pocket, and that's okay. Private healthcare for MAID. It's okay. I mean, I hate to bring it up, but it's the same thing with like the abortion clinic in Calgary. It's a private facility.
It's private,
and it's private for-profit healthcare, and people are fine with that.
It skirts the argument. Yeah, they can skirt it pretty easily, can't they?
So I guess abortion and MAID, private healthcare is okay.
Yeah, yeah, and that is wild. And then you've got in here, it just talks about a tale of two cities, and you just touched on the private expanded access to assisted suicide in Victoria. But then on the flip side, you've got this case in Vancouver, the faith-based hospitals sued for not offering assisted suicide. So they're getting sued? Who was suing them?
Dying with Dignity Canada is suing St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver. The Justice Centre is involved in the case because we have lawyers who are acting for an intervener, which is the Delta Hospice Society, which was shut down effectively by the provincial government because they wanted to offer palliative care, which is end-of-life care, and they wanted to provide a setting for patients who want to go into palliative care who do not want to be badgered whether it's several times a day or once a day or several times a week, hey, do you want MAID? Do you want MAID? Do you want MAID?
Yeah.
Do you
How
want
about now?
MAID?
How about now?
How about now?
Yeah.
Right. So, because there's a lot of patients, they don't want that. They want palliative care where they're not in a sterile, impersonal hospital environment. They're in a hospice, which typically it's a lot nicer than a hospital. Easy access for family, kind of a home feel to it. And they don't want to be offered this.
No, they're there to live out their days.
So the provincial government in BC shut down the Delta Hospice Society. So now this lawsuit, so Dying with Dignity Canada is suing St. Paul's Hospital, which is a Catholic hospital, which actually, I thought they really were bending over backwards to compromise. They provided information about assisted suicide, and if a patient wanted that, they would facilitate a transfer for a patient to get out of St. Paul's and go into a different hospital or clinic or wherever.
Okay.
So I would think kind of a reasonable compromise.
Sounds
They're
reasonable.
saying well, in fact, I think they're bending over backwards, because if St. Paul's really had it their way, totally,
they would not.
They probably wouldn't even provide the information, right? But so they're kind of compromising by saying, we'll provide the information, and if you want MAID, right, if you want assisted suicide, we'll facilitate a transfer out. So Dying with Dignity Canada says, oh, no, that's not good enough. St. Paul's Catholic Hospital must provide assisted suicide. That is their court action, and we'll have to. The hearing is concluding in March or April. And, we'll have a decision, hopefully by Christmas. But sometime this year, we're expecting a ruling on that.
Right. I'm trying to figure out the goal of Dying with Dignity. I'm just. I think
it's an authentic enthusiasm for suicide would be my guess. I mean, obviously, I haven't sat down with these people and asked them, but it's wow, you want to force a Catholic hospital to provide assisted suicide, why can a transfer not be enough if a patient
if that's what they want,
out?
Here, we've provided access.
Yeah.
I don't.
You get the access. No, you have to do it. You have to do it.
Yeah, what's driving this? Are we missing something here? Is there money? Is there grants? Is there funding? Is there honestly, I'm not trying to go down a conspiratorial path.
I think their argument in court is that St. Paul's is violating a charter right. You have a charter
right, of course.
You have a charter right to suicide, which is actually offside with some of the other jurisprudence where court rulings have said that there's no charter right to a particular health service as such. It's the discretion of the government what they fund or do not fund.
Sure.
There's a guy in Ontario needed he spent $400,000 for a private. It was a liver transplant thing. He was terminally ill.
Okay.
He would die without the liver transplant. It was not available in Ontario. OHIP didn't provide it. So he went to the United Kingdom and got
it done.
Somehow came up with $400,000, saved his life. Then he sued and he lost. And the court said it's a political choice of OHIP what they provide, and what they don't. And so OHIP has decided they're not funding this particular
It was just
rare
that case in that surgery. Yeah.
And so there isn't, if this is the law, then no government is obligated to provide any particular health service. It's in the discretion of the government what to provide or not.
Yeah.
So
fair. Okay.
We'll see how the court
see where they go with it. How do you feel about it?
Well, it's part of the problem there is you've got a provincial government in BC which ideologically, philosophically, politically is very much in line with the Dying with Dignity Canada mindset. Yeah. It was the provincial government that shut down the Delta Hospice Society. They've confiscated a private facility where people donated money to set this up. So there is this palliative care for people who are dying. where suicide was not presented as an option. But even there too, if somebody said, I want out of this place.
They would, yeah.
I want out of this place and I want to go into a hospital
I can't be here. Yeah.
Then they would respect that. They're not going to say, no, we're going to force you here.
Yeah, but this is their beliefs here in this.
This is their beliefs.
It's a faith-based.
The provincial NDP government shut the place down because it refused to provide assisted suicide. They said that's contrary to our beliefs.
What is going on? And the other part that we just wanted to touch on too is the fact that they're really seem to be targeting veterans as well. Like I keep hearing it, and I'm seeing shout outs from, veterans on social media, and even a close friend of mine, Jason Price, who became a country singer late in life, but he worked at the naval base in on the East Coast, and he's hearing it from all the vets, all his friends, and so he just made a song about it. Like, what is going on here? All these veterans are being offered MAID.
It's well, as the title of our report, it's the culture of death. It's like, there should be a healthy appreciation for death as a reality, that we're not in some kind of crazy denial. But then that can go off the rails into, you should you should die as early as possible. And anecdotally, and this would be very hard to get formal data on this because this is not always recorded, but anecdotally, I have heard from various people, multiple sources, that it's just become very common. There's a woman in Alberta who needed some back surgery or something. She was not terminally ill. She needed some surgery to deal with,
pain.
And at some point in the whole process, somebody said, "Oh, by the way, and MAID is another option for you. Are you interested in that?"
Just firing it out there.
"Yeah, I was just just throwing it out there, And it's like, this woman's not terminally ill. She just needed surgery for something. It was important. She needed the surgery, and it just kind of gets tossed in there, like, And by the way, like, do you want another cup of coffee?
If it's bad
do you want
enough,
MAID?
do you want to just off yourself?
So this has gotten into the culture, and it's my understanding that the provincial government in the next 2 or 3 months is coming in with provincial legislation that's going to try to address some of these problems where it's not, in your face and getting pushed and getting promoted.
Are you talking Alberta?
Alberta provincially.
Okay.
Yeah. There's plans underway to have some provincial legislation to address this.
Okay.
That would not take away the legal right that people have to commit suicide and to obtain a doctor's help. It wouldn't take that away. But, let's get some policy changes here so that we don't just have this
open the floodgates for anybody
prevalent culture where it's just, being pushed all the time. And I
they're
think
selling it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a cultural shift that I think has been underway for a few decades.
Yeah. Well, so what do you see? So what are next steps here? After this big drop, if you want to call it.
Well, federally, people can contact their MP and say that the law should not be changed in March of 2027. This should not be readily available to mentally ill people. It's getting back to having the door open, just a crack for kind of your extreme cases, your hard cases. And politicians mostly are followers, not leaders. So they do tend to respond to
they listen to the noise. Listen to the. I feel like that's where we've gone the last, what we're going to call it, 10 years, but I don't know how long it's been going on for. But the especially with social media, it's like we've opened the door to the minority of voices. So that when the minority of voices, they scream the loudest, but now they cater to the minority of voices, it feels like, and then they normalize it and make it seem like they're the most important. It's crazy.
That's part of democracy rewards the people who are the most active. And that's for better or for worse. There's an old French proverb that says, if you don't do politics, then politics will be done unto you. And it's always been the case, right? Like you take a look at capital punishment, for example, okay? I don't know where the polls are at today, but for throughout the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, the vast majority of Canadians thought that capital punishment was appropriate in some cases, like, child murderer.
Yes.
Paul Bernardo, like in extreme cases.
Easy cases, yeah.
Yeah. And yet politically, the anti-capital punishment people were smart and vocal and blah, 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 blah. And so we've had no capital. And I'm not commenting on whether that's good or bad.
No,
right? I'm
you're
just looking at the politics of it.
Yeah.
So the last time a criminal was executed in Canada, I think was in the early 1960s. And so we've had effectively, we've had the abolition of capital punishment, even while the vast majority of Canadians were in favor of it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's just how democracy is. It's the most active people that get their way. And, I often I say people who love truth and justice and freedom need to be more engaged in the democratic process.
And so now now they are, I feel like, case in point, Freedom Convoy, things beyond, and now we're getting active, and now they're attacking those getting active, right?
Which in a way it's a compliment, right? Because if somebody's completely useless,
that's fair.
Completely ineffective, you just ignore them. But here there's pushback because the Freedom Convoy was a threat to the establishment.
It was a threat, yeah.
And it was very effective. I mean, after Freedom Convoy, you had first Saskatchewan, then Alberta, and then every other province dropped all of their lockdown measures, vaccine passports, curfew. Yeah. It was a tipping point because people got peacefully active in the democratic process.
Put them on notice. Well, it just even kind of reminds me of, I'm going to shift gears here in a sec, but it just reminds me, last night I was at the independence rally, in down at the Big Four, and just...
I heard the Calgary Herald said there was hundreds of people there, and the truth is it was thousands.
I was there.
How many people were there?
It was well over 5,000.
Wow.
I mean, the building holds apparently 5 or 6. It was every chair and standing room. There was not one chair
that was vacant.
No
every
chairs.
Every chair was full, and then people standing.
And I've been in there to watch concerts. Huge venue, like it's huge. And I have watched many a concert there. I was just there for GedFest, and it was packed. But I mean, this was way more packed, and it goes all the way to the back. And so you can see there's a ton of videos. Like I ran into Marty up north there, and I was with Berta Dad and a bunch of us hanging out and taking videos. No, it was not. It just made me think of the attacks that are now coming to the traitorous separatists for wanting change, some tangible change in this province. That's an example.
Don't be surprised to hear separatists denounced as racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, hateful,
already there.
Neo-Nazis. Like the whole thing will.
It's already there. I know. It saddens me because it just being there. I had to look inside myself, to be honest, to support the movement, because I was worried about people calling me, all these names. And I just thought, you know what, this is my line. That's it. I'm in. I want this to happen. I want the vote to happen. I don't know where it's going to land, but I think the vote needs to happen. And I didn't mean to go on separation today, but it reminded me, when you talk about these different factions, you got to stand up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Anyway, I did want to shift gears. I wanted to talk about because another one that you're looking after is a lot of the internet censorship and some of the bills that are coming. I have talked about them in here with some others, not in super detail, but maybe we can go through a couple of the bills and what we're seeing in terms of censorship on Canadians. Maybe start with one of the first bills that kind of got this ship going.
Yeah. C11, the Online
C11.
Streaming Act.
Yeah.
So this podcast, videocast that you and I are doing right now at this moment is actually under the jurisdiction of the CRTC, the Canadian Radio, Television, Telecommunications Commission.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
CRTC.
Yeah.
So that was 2023, and it was very clever. The government passed it, and what they do that's clever is they don't immediately start to exercise the new power that they have. So we are every podcast, every video cast in Canada, everything on the internet is under the jurisdiction of the CRTC. because of this Bill C-11, the Online Streaming Act.
Online
Previously,
streaming, yeah.
it was just radio and television. Right now, it's radio, television, and internet.
Right.
Now, what the CRTC, what I predict, I usually don't make predictions, but I'll make an exception here.
Okay.
You know, their first step, it's like the frog in the boiling water, right? Or the story is told that if you toss a frog into a pot of boiling water, it immediately jumps back out because it knows that it's dangerous, it's gonna die. But supposedly, I've never tried this at home and I never will, but supposedly if you put the frog in cold water on a stove and you heat it up slowly, the frog doesn't notice, and then eventually he'll boil to death.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
So this is how it works with politics. So we have this Online Streaming Act passed in 2023.
Yeah.
There was some opposition, but there wasn't a big
it wasn't crazy.
outcry.
Yeah.
After it passed, nothing changed. Life went on. However, here's what the CRTC can do. Firstly, they'll say, if you have a podcast or a video cast, you just need to register. You don't need to do anything else.
Yeah, that's
you know,
where it
you just have to
started,
you just have to register because we want to know how many podcasts and video casts there are. And then the next step is you have to file once a year.
Yep.
Just file a very short report. It'll only take you 2 minutes. You just have to say how many podcasts you had. And then it's like, well, what were the topics that you covered? And then it's like, well, how much Canadian content did you have? And did you have, lots of Aboriginal and LGBTQ and whatever?
Are you diverse? Yeah.
You know, are you diverse? We're not telling you what you can and can't do. We're just curious. We're just gathering information. You know, how's your diversity going? And it asks, and then it gets to a point where it says, well, you're free to say whatever you want, but it is important that you have, 10% has got to be Aboriginal and 10% LGBTQ. And so we're not telling you what you can and can't say, but you do need to have this diverse content, right? And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And that's like the frog in the pot of water on the stove.
Yeah.
So we got to repeal the Online Streaming Act, the Bill C-11, and say, no, thanks, but no thank you, CRTC. We don't need your, sorry.
It's all good.
We don't need your
me.
help.
Yeah.
I'm doing the quotation marks with my fingers. We don't need your help to run our affairs. We can do our podcasts and videocasts without any help from the CRTC.
Yeah, Jasmine tipped me off on that, on how they were going, Jasmine Lane, just how they were attacking or slowly getting to, like, you're going to have to do these reports and they're very slippery with all these bills, and not just in censorship, just in general. It's always masquerading as for the greater good. It's for the greater good.
Oh, yeah.
For the greater good.
We want to protect you from hate, protect you from disinformation.
Which it's part of it. It is part of it. There's some hate there. But then
who gets to decide what's hateful or not?
Yeah.
Because if you got these laws on the books, then hate speech becomes the speech that certain politicians hate. And that's hate speech.
Yeah.
I hate what you're saying, so
I hate
you're engaging in hate speech because I hate what you're saying. The big question is, who gets to decide?
Yeah, who becomes the wielder of the stick? The
concept of I love the idea of there not being any disinformation on the internet or on podcasts.
Sure.
I love that.
Great in theory.
But okay, but who gets to decide what's disinformation or not?
Well, we saw it happen with Twitter before and Facebook before during, let's just be honest, right? COVID exposed also all of that, the other side, trying to hide everything and banning people and twisting information and deciding what was true and what wasn't true.
Yeah.
For us.
So now the big threat that's coming up now is the reintroduction of the Online Harms Act. This was introduced almost 2 years ago as Bill C-63.
C-63,
Online Harms Act. We got to protect the children, right?
Yeah, that's
who could disagree with that?
Yeah.
Well, the fact is that it currently, it is a criminal code offense to threaten, to intimidate, to non-consensual showing of sexual images, like revenge porn, is illegal. Threatening people is illegal. There's a criminal code prohibition against intimidation of illegally pressuring somebody to do something that they would not do otherwise. Blackmail, obviously, if you extort money or something else to say, otherwise I'm going to release this naked photo of you or whatever. All of this is illegal. And
it's
there's
already illegal.
It's already illegal.
Yeah.
So maybe we need better law enforcement, but we don't need more laws. And most importantly, it's up to parents first and foremost to protect their children by not giving them unlimited, unfettered access where the kids got the smartphone 16 hours a day talking to God knows who. Parents have to protect their children, and there's no law that can substitute for that.
No. Yeah, there is.
If you're a parent, you need to place limits, time-wise, location-wise. Maybe the kid, you can only use the cell phone in the living room. You can't have it privately in your bedroom, or it's only for certain times. It's not hard for parents to observe and watch what their kids, to monitor what's going on, and that's also perfectly legal. Parents have every right to see what their kids are doing online. Yep. So there's no substitute for that. But here it's like, so the Online Harms Act would be, it's an absolute nightmare.
It's a slope. Yeah, it's a big slippery. And I think Rachel Thomas from the conservative side, that used to be her file. I'm not sure that it is anymore. I haven't followed, but that used to be her bag. She was hard against it, and she was trying to warn people where this was going. Sorry. No, go ahead. Yeah.
So the government keeps on murmuring about reintroducing it, and this keeps on, they keep on saying that they will. So, assuming it's the same bill that was introduced 2 years ago, so some of the provisions include new powers for the Canadian Human Rights Commission to prosecute Canadians over non-criminal, offensive, discriminatory speech. So that's just like a whole big chilling effect. You can be fined tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah. And they say, well, relax. It's not a big deal because it's not criminal. You won't have a criminal record.
It's not criminal.
That's sort of like this, so it would empower the federal cabinet to pass censorship regulations where they dictate what's allowed or not allowed online. It would create a digital safety commission to enforce those federal regulations. Yeah. It would impose huge penalties, multi-million-dollar penalties on large companies. It would also, there's a provision in there where if a neighbor feared that you might commit a speech crime in future, you could be hauled before a judge, and the judge, so you're not accused of a crime, you're not convicted of a crime, the judge could order you to be placed under house arrest with an ankle bracelet, and you could be ordered to refrain from communicating with...
This is future
Minority
crimes.
Report.
Yeah, I literally was going Minority Report, which is an unreal movie, but wow.
So that's in Bill C-63. Another provision is increasing the penalty to life in prison for hate speech. Again, not any physical crime, but just the hate speech itself, like calling for. If you said death to the fill in the blank religious ethnic group, potentially life in prison. Life in prison, where you get a Supreme Court ruling saying that mandatory 1 year minimum for child porn is excessive, right? And here we've got the Parliament saying life in prison just for saying death to the blank group for words only. You could get life in prison. So that's the Online Harms Act. The Justice Center has already started a campaign against the reintroduction, and people can go to our website, and there's a letter there, and you can find your MP and kind of go click, 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 and your MP can get a letter against reintroducing the Online Harms Act.
Well, like you said earlier, it's important. You have to get engaged. If we're going to sit around and complain about the minority of voices screaming about things we're against, we have to also step up and scream back. Right, our MPs, like you say, or MLAs, or wherever you're at. And even going back to like, is it the Online News Act? Is that the Streaming Act? The online 18.
And the C-18 was the Online News Act.
News Act. I'm just.
Which was let's extract lots of money out of Google and Meta. And that just backfired.
That backfired. So I mean, do you think that was their, what was their goal there? Because they sold it as, hey, this is to promote Canadian content and giving news, to our people, and it ended up taking away the news from Canadians.
Well, the viewership has gone down for CBC, CTV, Global, all these media outlets because you can't share by Facebook.
Yeah, you can't.
Anymore.
Yeah.
And this was a way that a lot of people were getting their news from Facebook. Their aunt, their cousin, brother, sister, mom, dad, friend, neighbor was saying, "Oh, look at this," right? And so people are sharing news, and now that's not happening anymore. So,
which is too bad. I liked those days.
There was a slush fund created that's going only to the government-funded media.
Of course, yeah.
So Meta said no, and they kind of gave the government the middle finger and said, "Okay, you're not sharing news on Facebook anymore."
Yeah,
that's what Meta did. Google is not 100% sure. I believe it's $100 million a year. It's in our report, but that's going
110 or something. Yeah, 100 million. Yeah.
And that's going to the government's favorites. That's not going to go to your podcast or videocast. It's not going to go to the Rebel or Juno News or the Epoch Times or the Western Standard.
No.
So it's more of a slush fund for dying media who, as far as I'm concerned, they're dying a well-deserved death.
It is a well-deserved death. I guess we should get Dying with Dignity in there to help.
Let's off the media. Hey, do you want to commit suicide? Yeah, we'll assist you. Yeah. Don't suffer for the next 5 years. You should just dissolve you should go out of business right now.
You should just leave us all, please. Yeah, good point. Well, it's it blows my mind all of like just talking about all the censorship here online and just the creep and control. And I always kind of laugh at some of the people that there's not a lot, like I said, minority, but if I like post something from our talk here of me saying creep and control or how it's coming in, and there's always people like, try living here, try living in Korea. Like, we have it good. You're good. Why? Quit whining, quit complaining. It's like,
well, there's a kernel of truth in that. I mean, compared to North Korea,
of course.
Compared to the United Kingdom, we're doing really well. In the United Kingdom, they're arresting 30 people a day over social media commentary.
That's where I was going with this.
Which is why it's so important that we use our current freedom of expression that we still have, which is considerable. Mm-hmm. And I'm not minimizing the dangers. We have a lot left, right? And we have to use that to get rid of the bad laws.
Yeah.
We have to use our freedom of expression to make sure that something as terrible as the Online Harms Act is not reintroduced and passed. Yeah,
let's keep our freedoms. It's okay to fight to keep, right? And then just even thinking about language and all that censorship. This goes back to like how hard the musicians fought. Right. It's free speech is such a integral part of our society. What have you been following closely in the UK? I wanted to ask you that lastly. Have you been following very intensely all the arrests? Like some people are suggesting that it's not actually happening there. Like they're not arresting people. Have you looked into the data and what's going on over there?
It has been 30 arrests per day. Now, there was a really positive story in the last 2 or 3 days that I read where the Home Secretary is kind of, Minister of the Interior that is whatever responsible for a lot of the legislation. Yeah. So there's a senior cabinet minister. If it wasn't the Home Secretary, it was somebody else saying that the police are not spending enough time on, say, prosecuting shoplifting and
real
vandalism and real crimes, and that the police have been spending too much time on the non-criminal incitement to hatred. And there are people. There's a guy who said, "I was assigned mammal at birth, but I have a fish orientation." Got a knock on the door from police over that.
Oh my God.
People who are critical of immigration policies, who say that there's too many immigrants or the wrong kind of immigrants or too many immigrants from the wrong countries, all of which should be just a matter of public debate.
Yeah, debate.
Oh, no, that's hateful. That's hateful.
Yeah.
So maybe they're going to back away from it. Certainly this news story from 2 or 3 days ago, forget the source. It was behind a paywall, and somebody sent me a cut and paste.
Yeah.
But it was a British news story, and so supposedly they're going to back away from this because you could see police falling for this. It's a lot easier to go knocking on the door of somebody who sent out a mean tweet than it is to, you know, crack up a prostitution ring that's recruiting and kidnapping
and human
girls
trafficking
and human trafficking.
Yeah.
That's hard. Then that's really hard policing work, because you got to investigate.
It's a lot of resources
and resources, and you're dealing with some nasty people who might be violent. Like, that's really hard. The real crime fighting is hard. So you can see it's not really surprising that police in the UK would default to knocking on the doors of people.
Take the easy road.
You know, we saw what you posted on Twitter last night, and that's not acceptable.
Like a teacher coming to your door. Now. Yeah. Anyway, sad state of affairs. Well, I appreciate you coming in today and educating me on all things having to do with constitutional freedoms. What is next for you guys? What big things are you working on at the center? Can you give us anything new that's coming down the pipe?
Well, we've got, gosh, you know, I should have a ready answer for that. We have so many court cases. If you go to our website, www.jccf.ca, so Justice Center Constitutional Freedoms, jccf.ca, and there's an icon there for cases. And you can see we got lots of free speech cases on the go. We've got Ontario school teachers, Matt and Nicole Alexander, who were fired from their jobs because they disagreed with the wording of they had to celebrate and affirm LGBTQ narrative, they disagreed with the wording of the policy. They would have cheerfully signed on to a simple, we treat everybody
generic,
we treat everybody with kindness and respect. No complaints against either teacher for having done anything wrong in the classroom. Zero complaints. But they
made them insert the wording.
They disagreed with the wording of the policy and just got fired. And their union did nothing to help them. And so the Justice Center is funding their legal representation to go to a labor relations board. So that's an example. We've got free speech cases all over Canada where people are getting silenced over what they say in their just
overreach. Classic overreach, And
then Chris Barber is our, I guess, our client indirectly. We've been paying for his legal bills, which has been at least $350,000, $500,000 over the last 4 years.
It's got to be because they've been coming at him so hard,
and that's
just ongoing.
That's just ongoing and coming after his truck. And I mean, the lawyer is great, and she's charging like half or less than half of her regular rate.
Is that
Diane Magus?
Oh, Diane Magus. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's the donors make that possible. It's donors to the Justice Center that have been able to make it possible for Chris Barber to have the legal representation the past coming on 4 years.
Coming on 4 years.
In February.
Yeah. Wild. Well, it's a great thing you're doing. Yeah. Everybody make sure you get onto jccf.ca. You can follow all the cases, see what's coming on, and follow John's work and cheer on your favorite Patriots. We'll have to get you back in here again to update us on everything.
I'd be delighted to come back. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Okay, John. Excellent. See you again.